Hi, I'm BJ, and this is the Arcane Alienist Podcast. Hey, everybody, I just realized, man, it's been, a month, 6 weeks since the last episode. Time got away from me. Also, I've only played a couple of times or run a couple of game sessions since then. The kids have all been busy. Almost all of them made it to the state speech finals coming up. Actually, will be coming up this week. The speech and debate tournament for the state of Oklahoma. All of them made it in at least one event, so they've been really focused on speech tournaments and prep and things like that. And they've had some band events as well. All of them are in band also, so they've been a busy group this last month. So we'll get back to some gaming after things settle down here in a couple of weeks. But I want to go ahead and give an update, and I also have this call from Daniel that's been waiting in the wings for quite a while, so I wanted to get that played and out there. So let's hear from Daniel, and then when we're done with Daniel, we'll move into a recap of the games we've had with high school kids playing old school fantasy role-playing.
Hey BJ, Daniel from Bandit, keep calling in. Really enjoyed the last episode. You know, as you were going through kind of your different rules variations, I got so excited. I love hearing everybody's effectively house rules, if you will, but that end up, when you have so many like that, it like creates an entire game. It's like you've taken the core of a couple of games that you really like, and you've mashed together certain things, you've changed some things, and you've effectively made a brand new game, which is fantastic. So I was just curious when you're going to do your, $2-3 million Kickstarter. Let me know. I will make sure that I back it.
Hey, Daniel, thanks for the call. I try to follow. I think you're the one who said it best at one point. You go and you look at sort of Kickstarters, or you look on Drive-Thru RPG. People put out their own kind of fantasy heartbreaker, and you pay for it, and you get it, and you realize this is basically an existing game, most often or not than not BXD&D, and you've made a couple of changes or house rules. It could have been like, a page and a half document that just says play BX with the following exceptions or changes. So I've tried to avoid that, but I guess you're right. At some point I've crossed the line into sort of blending stuff from 3 or 4 different places, that it is kind of its own unique, still you can see where all the guts came from. Very little of it is anything I invented on my own. But I guess if I were to put that together in a way and then include some sort of citations of where I got ideas, that might be kind of cool. But I don't know if I want to charge for that. But yeah. But if I do, I'll let you know, and you'll be we'll make sure you get all the stretch goals that come from that. When I make my $1 million on my fantasy heartbreaker on Kickstarter. So keep an eye out for it. But as always, Daniel, I appreciate hearing from you. I enjoy getting your calls, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, let's recap what the kids have been up to. And it's been a while, but let's get into it here. I've got to look at my notes to make sure I remember everything, because it's been a while. So last time we left off talking about the smaller group, our group of metalhead-inspired players. That a new guy joined, a new player joined to add a 5th person to the party. He created a mage. He wanted to go more of the kind of a bard-like mage, since there's no bard in basic D&D. So he chose some knacks and some kind of allowed him to get spells that would sort of differentiate him from the other mage in the group. And he decided that, keeping with the name of famous musicians and bands, he is simply the mage formerly known as Prince. So, formerly known as Prince, but now he's just the mage or the wizard. So they go farther into the caverns. They had been poking around in these caverns trying to rescue the patriarch of this local temple from this orc war band. They've really already defeated the chieftain of the war band and most of his stronger orcs. who they kind of managed to draw him out by causing some chaos when they first entered the caverns. But they're still looking for the remainder of the loot that was taken from the town and this missing priest. So they move farther into the caverns after they've just left off of fighting a giant toad and or a giant horned toad, which is actually a lizard, and somewhat not quite taming, but at least getting a non-hostile reaction from a giant ferret that appears to have been tamed and partially trained. That the existing wizard Arrow Smith wants to turn into a pet. But anyway, they decide they'll come back and pick up the ferret on their way out. They go farther into the caverns. They come across a pair of doors. They pick one. They enter the room. There's a large orc who appears to be the trainer of the ferret, because there's a second giant ferret in the room that he's working with. And there's also a human tied up, which is the mage formerly known as Prince. So we very quickly get this guy into the adventure. We just say, he's a friend of yours. He was supposed to meet you in town. He never showed up. So they fight off the orc and the giant ferret and start to rescue him. And some orcs come in from the room next door. There's a little bit of a fight out in the hallway, and they manage to defeat them. They press a little farther into this long corridor. They skip, it forks, and so they sort of skip, the side passage and move further on. And so I started to roll random encounters again, because what they skipped in that room was was an orc and a bugbear who's come as a guest. It doesn't really say in the written module, King's Festival, why they're there. So it's up to me to decide. I haven't really thought about why yet, because we didn't get that far in interacting with either of these characters. They bypass that side passage and they go farther, up the hallway, and they encounter the last of the orc officers, the lieutenants that report to the chieftain. But he manages to trick them into the fighter Fu. He falls into a pit trap that's hidden there. There's the orc backpedals. He knows this pit trap is there, and he's sidestepping. And Fu, who's also an orc remember, falls into the pit. But they're able to defeat this guy. But in the meantime, I rolled for a random encounter and came up it, and the only thing possible left was this last orc, and the bugbear snuck up on him. And bugbears are really sneaky, so he got the drop on him, and he nearly killed one of the halflings, the halfling mage, before they were able to defeat everybody and kind of get themselves together. So they're limping, they're down, they've exhausted all their healing spells, all their hit points. There's really not much of a fight left in them, but they go ahead and press on just to see what's around the next corner, and it turns out to be the final large throne room chamber of the orc chieftain. But all that's left are non-combatants. They've slain all the warriors, and so the chieftain's mate is in there, along with some older orcs and non-combatant orcs and younger orcs, and it's pretty clear there's no fight left in them, and the party is pretty beat up, but they're still an armed adventuring party. So with a little bit of role playing, she agrees to. It's kind of funny that one of them tried to flirt with her and kept rolling bad reaction rolls, but. She agrees to leave the remnants of this orc warband back to where they came from and release the priests that they've been holding captive in there. So, the end of the first part of this adventure module, Father Alric, the priest, thanks them for their help, and he notes that there's a passageway behind the orc chieftain's throne, but the orcs seemed afraid of it, like they avoided it. They didn't want to go down there. Well, they opened the door, and I just ruled that the cleric in the party is immediately hit with a sense of sort of evil emanating from down. There's sort of a passageway that goes down. There's some stairs. And they decide that they're going to go back to town, escort Father Alric back to town, and then rest up, heal up, resupply, and then they'll come back and explore the second, what's going to be the second level of the dungeon. And that's also something that the town priest Alric kind of suggested they do. Get me back home and rest up, and we'll maybe help you get some supplies to come back and explore further. So that is where that group left off. They've only played once in the last several weeks. The other group has played twice. This is the larger group that I started out with. So they, they left off with, where did they leave off? They had kind of helped disperse a riot that was breaking out for the evening, and one of the rogues in the party, sort of accidentally, on purpose, nearly escalated things by backing up into the shadows and sniping one of the town watch. But they managed to avert that crisis. So what happens after that is we reconvene to play. And pardon me, excuse my voice today. They realized that the dead woman they had found was I'm sorry, I'm reading my wrong set of notes. Let me back up here. I guess they've only played once. They'd been told to go back and take care of the goblins that were under that were down in the tunnels that were helping to tunnel in the city. So they decided they're going to do that. In the midst of this, remember, the noblewoman has been murdered. They found the body. They managed to clear their names of being any involvement. But now the patron of one of the party, he's a house guard for one of the noble houses. He's been accused of the murder, and the party's supposed to clear their names, but his family, who are also nobles and sort of responsible for what goes on in the city, said, "Hey, why did you leave those goblins down in the tunnel? Go down there and get them out of there." So they decided to go back. They used the map that they had recovered of sort of some of the tunnels that had been dug under the city, and some of the places that the tunnels lead to. One of the locations is a place called the Rattlebone Inn. So they go to the Rattlebone Inn. They claim that there's been damage as well as flooding in cellars in the basement from somebody tunneling under the ground. The sewers are leaking in. They need to go check out. So the innkeeper shows them where the basement is, but everything appears to be in order. Their rogue, Tabel, manages to slip into the shadows and stay downstairs while the others go back with the innkeeper. And once alone, he starts poking around, and he finds a tunnel entrance hidden behind a large cask of ale. So a couple of the party members continue to keep the innkeeper distracted while everybody else sneaks down and joins him. And again, man, Bugbears, it's funny. My son's wizard in the previous one is the one that almost got killed by the bugbear, and in this case, his fighter, the same thing happens. They round the tunnel, and there's a bugbear crouched down waiting for him, and it gets the drop on him and just lays him out. And they grab him and drag him back to the basement and fight. There's this fighting retreat. They're able to kill the bugbear as they escape, but they have to take him back and get him patched up. While all this is going on, the two that are upstairs are able to sort of slip away again down into the basement. They get the innkeeper focused on something else. So they sort of regroup. They poke their way around through the tunnels again, being a little more cautious this time. And they are able to get back to the place where there are some goblins. They find this lair with some goblins. They're led by one remaining hobgoblin. Previously, they had encountered some hobgoblins as well. This was a really fun battle because the battle breaks out. They're kind of fighting back and forth in the entryway to this thing, and this one goblin in the back pulls out a scroll and starts. While we're declaring actions, this one goblin in the back pulls out a scroll and starts reading it, and all of a sudden, they just realize, hey, if we win initiative and we kill him before he finishes that spell, we can take that scroll, can't we? Actually, it's not a scroll, it's a tablet, so it's a permanent magic item. And so now the goal became, everybody focus fire on that guy, get him, kill him. So they managed they won initiative, they managed to disrupt the goblin spell casting and get him before he could try again. So that falls into their loot. They really take the goblins out quick. The hobgoblin puts up quite a good fight, but it finally surrenders once it realizes, hey, I'm not going to win the fight against this party. And it sort of bargains that in exchange for being escorted safely out of the city, he'll tell them everything he knows about the humans who hired these goblins and made a pact for these goblins to come help them, but only after he's outside the city. The way I play goblins, hobgoblins, bugbears, they are somewhat fey creatures. They deal in bargains. They can't directly lie, but they can tell, they can be very sneaky and misleading and things like that. So they're always up for a deal. Someone has made a deal with their, the Troll King, who they all is kind of their demigod that they follow to get the help of a band of goblins, and he'll tell them everything he knows about that, but only after they get him safely out the city. So they sort of are able to kind of put some things over his head, and he's a hobgoblin. He can pass enough for human if nobody's looking directly at his face, and they kind of sneak him back out, and they stash him in the barn at the end they're staying, and they're going to, when we regroup next time for the next game session, it'll be sort of we'll role play them sort of sneaking him out at night and what he learns. So I got to think about what he's going to tell him, because I really hadn't planned that far ahead, because I'm running this out of the Veiled Society and just adapting it as interesting things come up. So yeah, we had 2 good sessions. They've all been off, and so hopefully we'll get back to playing here in another week or 2, and I can update everybody on what's going on. So it's been a lot of fun. So that'll be it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Whatever you're doing out there, take care of yourself, be safe, and try to make someone happy today. Thanks for listening to the Arcane Alienist podcast. The music you're hearing is Come and Get It by Scott Holmes Music. The cover art is by Dave Bone. Be sure to check out his stuff at ironseer.com. You can leave me a message. I have my SpeakPipe account linked to the show description. You can also send me an email at arcane.alienist@gmail.com. Just embed a voice memo, or I'll just read the text to your email during a future episode. Once again, thanks so much for listening.